when entering and leaving the room. Peter Aldous to move the motion.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Chairman. I beg to move that this House should consider levelling up in the East of England. Ms McVeigh, it's a pleasure to serve under your chairmanship, and I also thank the Backbench Business Committee for granting this debate. I'm also grateful to the Secretariat and supporters of the All-Party Parliamentary Group for the East of England, which I co-chair with the Honourable Member for Cambridge, for the research that they have carried out ahead of this debate, including their October 2021 publication, Achieving Sustainable Growth and Sustainable and Inclusive Growth in the East of England. The East of England, traditionally known as East Anglia, comprises the easternmost counties of the United Kingdom. It comprises Norfolk, Suffolk and Cambridgeshire, and also Essex, Bedfordshire and Hertfordshire. The western and southern boundaries of the region are somewhat porous, and some of those living, say, in South Essex, parts of Hertfordshire and parts of Bedfordshire may not view themselves as actually being part of the East of England. That said, it is great that those three counties are so well represented in this chamber this morning. That's whilst at times East Anglians are welcoming people, whilst at times East Anglians are understated, there is no hard border to the region, as the Devil's Dyke was never completed and ceased to function well over 1100 years ago. Levelling up is in many respects the government's signature tune. The Prime Minister first spoke of the need to level up across Britain in his first speech as Prime Minister on the 24th of July 2019. The policy was the cornerstone of the Conservative manifesto at the 2019 general election, and we are now eagerly awaiting the publication of the Levelling Up White Paper, which will set out the strategy as to how levelling up will be delivered. I will give way to my honourable friend, and I look forward to his intervention.
Can I congratulate the Honourable Gentleman and all his colleagues for attendance? And this quote, he mentioned the Prime Minister. Just last week, the Prime Minister stated during his engagements, and I quote, "The UK must get on with their job of levelling up across the whole of the United Kingdom, making sure that every part of this great United Kingdom shares in our ambition to be a science superpower." Does the Honourable Gentleman agree that consideration must also be given to the rest of the UK? In the north of England, it's going to be £38 per head per population. In Northern Ireland, the money is even less. So to ensure that we all benefit, I think the Prime Minister wants us all to benefit. I think the Honourable Gentleman wants it as well. Does he agree?
I thank the Honourable Member for that intervention, and yes, I do wholeheartedly agree. Northern Ireland and the East of England do have many things in common, in that Northern Ireland is the most western part of the United Kingdom. I personally represent the most easterly constituency in the United Kingdom. The levelling up must go around the whole of the United Kingdom, north and south, but also, as we're hearing today, east and west. Ms McVeigh, the White Paper is long overdue, but I recognise that the once-in-a-generation challenge of COVID-19 has diverted attention, and I acknowledge that my honourable friend, the Minister, and my right honourable friend, the Secretary of State for Levelling Up, Housing and Communities, are still relatively new in office. Whilst we are yet to see the detail of the government's levelling up policy, there are some early signs that the East of England might be overlooked. The purpose of this debate, from my perspective, is to highlight this concern and to obtain an assurance from the Minister that this will not be the case, that our region will not be ignored, and the needs of local people and local businesses will be fully and properly taken into account. Ms McVeigh, it's first necessary to set the scene as to what is happening in the East of England. I give way to my honourable friend.
Just thank you very much, Ms McVeigh. But just before he moves on to broaden out his argument, he was just talking about the East of England being overlooked by levelling up. Isn't there an additional concern that actually, in the agenda on levelling up, the East of England will be seen as an area where more houses can be built and where taxes can be raised to be spent elsewhere? That those two considerations are important parallel aspects of levelling up that affect the East of England, and particularly constituencies in Bedfordshire.
I thank my honourable friend for that intervention. He is right. If more housing is to be provided, the infrastructure to go with it, and I will comment on that, will need to be provided. And also, as I will also address, the East of England at the moment is a net contributor to the UK, the Treasury. And if we don't invest in the East, there is a risk that you will be destroying the golden goose that lays that golden egg. As I said, at first glance, Ms. McVeigh, the region appears relatively prosperous, even though wages in many areas lag behind the national average. In 2019, the East of England accounted for 9% of the UK's GDP, though it had a GDP per head below that of the UK as a whole. There are significant pockets of hidden deprivation, particularly in coastal communities such as the Waveney constituency that I represent, and also in rural areas. These are often concealed as they lie close to more affluent places. I will give way to my friend.
Thank you, Chairman. The honourable friend is making a powerful point. Yes, and I accept fully that coastal communities and some rural areas suffer from deprivation, but also some of the new towns have some of the most deprived wards in the east of England, particularly in and around Basildon. And when we talk about levelling up, yes, it's about levelling up opportunity, but it's also levelling up their own environment and community to ensure that they stay there rather than feel they have to escape their local communities.
I thank my honourable friend for that intervention, and of course he is right in that one of the challenges that we do face, if we don't make that investment in these communities, you actually get a brain drain away from the region, and it is for that reason that we need to invest in those regions, and that way you do get level up and you get rid of that migration away from the region. As I've said, the East of England is one of 3 net contributing regions to UK PLC, and it should be emphasised that investment and support in our region will not only deliver levelling up, but it will also add to national prosperity. With regard to the hidden deprivation, much of it is focused in coastal areas, such as in Lowestoft, where traditional industries such as fishing and manufacturing have declined over the past 40 years, though there is hope that fishing can play an important role in the economic recovery through the Reef Initiative. If I look at the deprivation in Lowestoft, Kirkley is the 26th most deprived ward in the country. 10 of Lowestoft's neighbourhoods fall within the 10% most deprived nationally. A 2019 study found that more than 12,000 people in Lowestoft and in the rural area immediately to its north are affected by income deprivation. 20% of households in Lowestoft are living on absolute or relatively low incomes. 21% of adults have health issues that affect their activity, diminishing their participation in society, limiting their job opportunities, and contributing to well-being issues. And finally, while 68% of adults in the town are economically active, 15.7% are in receipt of universal credit. This reflects the low-skilled and temporary nature of employment opportunities currently available. Ms. McVeigh, it's also important to highlight one particular opportunity and one particular challenge in the East of England. The opportunity is presented by the UK's net zero target, with East Anglia right at the forefront of the government's plans. Half of the UK's offshore wind fleet will be anchored off our coast. There is the proposed Sizewell C nuclear power station, and there is the potential to retrofit the gas infrastructure, both in the southern North Sea and on land via the Bacton gas terminal. 30% of the UK's low-carbon electricity will in due course come through Suffolk alone. There is the potential to completely transform the economy of the whole of coastal East Anglia, where many of those deep pockets of deprivation are to be found. To make the most of this opportunity, from which the whole of the UK will benefit, there is a need for government to provide the necessary seed corn funding. If this is done, Ms McVeigh, we're not just talking about levelling up, we can provide a global exemplar as to how decarbonisation can be delivered to benefit local people and local communities. The particular challenge that needs to be mentioned is that which the region's councils are currently facing, particularly with regard to adult social care. This is because the East of England has a relatively elderly population. Following the Comprehensive Spending Review and the Provisional Local Government Funding Settlement, there is a real worry that 1 year of funding certainty is not enough. Councils need at least 3 years of certainty so that they can effectively plan and deliver services efficiently. There is a need for increased long-term funding for councils so as to close the funding gap which by the end of 2022-23 for East of England councils will be of the order of £240 million. There is a concern that the adult social care funding that has been provided is not enough and may not even cover the planned capital on care costs and changes to means testing. Councils are facing significant financial pressures due to the rising costs of care, workforce pressures and national insurance uplifts. Ms McVeigh, whilst I've highlighted the challenges that Lowestoft faces, I should point out that this government has responded positively and are currently making a significant investment in the town. Construction of the Gullwing Bridge and the Lowestoft Flood Defence Scheme are well underway, and Lowestoft has secured a Towns deal with work on these projects due to start later this year. In total, I'll give way to my honourable friend.
I thank my honourable friend for giving way. But does he not agree with me that when we're talking about infrastructure projects such as the bridge and so forth, we must remember when we talk about the anti-car debate in some of the towns, we must remember that some of our more leafy suburbs don't have the benefit of that, and we need transport infrastructure built to keep our economy alive.
My honourable friend is right in that issue. Transport infrastructure is vital, and I will be coming on to that shortly in my speech. Further afield from Lowestoft, the region will benefit from 2 free ports, at Felixstowe and Harwich and at Thames. However, whilst we await the detail of the government's levelling up proposals, there are some early warning signs that the needs of local communities in East Anglia may be overlooked, and there is a worry that we will not be able to realise the full potential of these projects for the benefit of local people and local businesses. With regard to funding allocated in the Comprehensive Spending Review, the East of England received the second lowest per capita spend of any region at £92 per head. Only London receives less. The UK average is £184 per person, and in Yorkshire and Humberside, the provision is £359 per head. In the first round of the Levelling Up Fund, the East of England secured £87 million. That is £13.88 per capita, compared with the national average of £23.91, and that for the East Midlands of £41.72. There is also a concern as to the prioritisation that has been provided both for the Levelling Up Fund and the Community Renewal Fund. As I've mentioned, Lowestoft has deep pockets of deprivation, yet it is neither a priority 1 area for the Levelling Up Fund nor a priority place in the Community Renewal Fund. It is essential that this inequity is put right ahead of the next round of the Levelling Up Fund and the introduction of the UK Shared Prosperity Fund. There is also a worry that notwithstanding opportunities in the East of England in such sectors as low carbon, agri-tech and life sciences, the government are actively seeking to discourage government spending on research and development in the East of England. In the Budget Red Book, the East of England is coupled with London and the South East, places to which much of the region is very, very different, as an area where government spending on R&D will be diverted from and discouraged. Ms McVeigh, no debate on the East of England would be complete without highlighting the region's infrastructure deficiencies, both in terms of the traditional modes of transport, road, rail and bus, and digital connectivity. In many ways, we are a victim of our own geography, which in other respects is one of the region's unique selling points. A relatively dispersed population with relatively small urban centres, a network of market towns and villages interspersed with attractive countryside, which serves not only as the breadbasket of the UK, but also the home to many flourishing rural businesses. If this infrastructure, both old and new, is not upgraded, I fear that the region will not realise its full economic potential, and it may be difficult for it to continue to be a net contributor to the Treasury's coffers. I will highlight 5 compelling reasons why we need to upgrade the region's connectivity. First of all, the East of England, with 13 ports, including 2 free ports, and 4 airports, Stansted, Luton, Southend and Norwich, is the UK's international gateway. If we do not have good rail and rail networks from these access points, through and out of the region, it's not just East Anglia that suffers, but there will be a negative knock-on impact to the whole of the UK. Half of the UK's containerised goods are moved through the region. 70% of those goods go to the north of England, and they support businesses and communities right across the UK. Air freight is critical to maintaining and growing the UK's ability to trade globally. Stansted is the only one of London's airports with the capacity and infrastructure to support increased demand for cargo aviation over the next 10 to 15 years. East Anglia's road and rail network is crucial to the smooth movement of these essential supplies, whether coming into the UK by sea or by air. Poor connections lead to slow, unreliable journeys, adding delay and cost, which ultimately the consumer ends up paying for. It is for this reason that roads such as the A12, the A14, the A120 and the A47 urgently need to be upgraded. Secondly, linked to this, our railways need to be improved so as to accelerate the shift of freight off the roads and to improve services into London, where many of the region's residents commute. The upgrades at Hawley Junction and Ely Junction are long overdue. Thirdly, improved transport infrastructure is needed to tackle those pockets of coastal deprivation to which I have referred. Many of these communities have poor transport links without dual carriageway connectivity and with low-frequency train services. I'll give way to my honourable friend.
Thank you. I have to thank my honourable friend for giving way and making such an excellent contribution to this debate. I do notice on the transport infrastructure, you do seem to be looking at a very kind of 20th century model of transport infrastructure, as if the climate crisis wasn't happening. And I wonder if the honourable member could talk a little bit more about kind of rapid transit systems that he envisages would take individuals off the road in their cars, move them onto buses, onto trains, freeing up more of that road network system and also helping the environment and the ecological systems in place.
I thank the Honourable for that introduction. He's right. I would say as far as road investment is concerned, we have to make up for work that should have been done a long time ago. Rail network improvements are vital to the future, as he has mentioned. I've mentioned 2 junctions at Hawley and Ely. I could get greedy. We need Trouse in his constituency, and we need Bow to improve the access into London as well. Those need to be addressed. I will also briefly now address the digital connectivity, which is so vital to the future. I will give way.
Thank you. Just before he moves on to the very important issue of digital connectivity, can I also just highlight that to the south of the county there are some proposals to look at a tram network south of Essex, I should say, as well. And there's one very important road that he missed out on his list, which is, of course, the A127, which is not part of the national infrastructure, but provides a vital route out of London down into Southend through some of the busiest and most and areas with the most opportunity to create this levelling up agenda, or deliver the levelling up agenda. So just to put that across his radar.
I'm grateful to my honourable friend for doing that, and I do apologise if my speech is somewhat what I would call East Anglian centric, and he's quite right to highlight those challenges and opportunities in the south of the region. Finally, I'll mention full fibre connectivity for all households and businesses is vital if East Anglia is to reach its full economic potential. Projects to deliver this are taking place in many towns across the region, including City Fibre's £15 million investment in the network across Lowestoft, but there is a concern that digital deserts may emerge in some rural areas, and thus it is vital that the government's Project Gigabit programme is ramped up and is fully comprehensive. For East Anglia to realise its full economic potential and to provide local people with the opportunity to work in the emerging and exciting new industries, there is a need for a skills revolution. The Skills and Post-16 Education Bill provides the framework to deliver this. But again, there is a concern that this may also be bypassing the region. Sizewell C is an enormous project that can bring great benefits to both Suffolk, Waveney and further afield. It is estimated that during the 12-year construction period, £2 billion will be put into the Suffolk economy. During this period, there will be 3 apprenticeship cycles and 1,500 apprenticeships. There is an opportunity, Ms McVeigh, to leave an enduring legacy of knowledge and skills, which in the long term, once construction is completed and Sizewell C is operational, can make Suffolk and Waveney a compelling location in which to set up and grow a business. This is exactly the sort of project for which it is necessary for there to be a gear change in training and which an Institute of Technology would help deliver. Notwithstanding this, the proposal from the University of Suffolk, East Coast College, the College of West Anglia and the Norwich University of Arts has not been successful in the Institute of Technology competition in which the second wave of successful bids has just been announced. In the first 2 waves, 21 institutes of technology have been created. These provide comprehensive coverage across the country. And yes, there is one at South Essex College at Chelmsford, but there is a vacuum in the east. I shall be following this up with my right honourable friend, the member for Chippenham, as to why the bid was rejected, but there is alarm that the necessary investment is not being made locally so as to ensure that the region fully benefits from these exciting opportunities that are emerging. Ms McVeigh, I've spoken for far too long, and I must allow others to have their say. Generally, I am excited about the future economic prospects for East Anglia as they provide the opportunity to reverse what has been 40 years of economic decline in coastal communities such as Waveney. However, I do have concerns that these are not yet fully taken into account in the emerging levelling up strategy. In the east of England, it is critical that government recognises the challenges faced in many coastal, rural and urban communities, that they upgrade connectivity, that they invest in skills. If we do not do this, then we will not eliminate those deep pockets of deprivation. There will be a negative spin-off across the UK, and the region's ability to continue to be a net contributor to UK PLC will be in peril. I hope that in his summing up, the Minister can allay these concerns.
The question is that this House has considered levelling up in the